in the conversation.
Yo, what's poppin', y'all? It is your boy, it's Guardy3. And of course, we are back this week with And One. We just had the NBA draft, and of course, even bigger news, Mo Bet is back. Mo, how you feeling this week?
It's been kind of like a long break, but I'm glad to be back. Thanks to everybody who's tuning in, checking us out. Let's get into it.
Absolutely. So, before we hop into the draft, Mo, you know how it is. We got a new underrated player of the week. For anybody just tuning in every week, Mo and I, we think there are too many players in NBA history that get lost in time, and we want to show some of those guys love. So, Mo, who's your underrated player of the week this week?
You know what? I'm gonna reach back into time a little bit. This guy used to play for the Spurs. His name is Mike Mitchell. Mike Mitchell was like a natural bucket getter. Used to average around 20 points a game for like 4 or 5 seasons. I think he made an all-star team or two. Mike Mitchell was a big part of that Spurs team that was a title contender in the early 80s with Iceman, Artis Gilmore, Johnny Moore. They had a tight squad, but they just kept running up against the Lakers. But Mike Mitchell was an instant bucket. So if you've never heard of Mike Mitchell, I would tell people Google Mike Mitchell, one of the smoothest jump shots you'll ever see.
You know, that's honestly a name I completely forgot about, so that was a great pick. I absolutely love that one. You see, I've seen a lot of New York Knicks in my news lately, and it got me thinking of Tom Thibodeau, and it got me thinking of one of his past underrated players. Why don't we show a little love to Luol Deng?
Ah, that's a good one.
Key piece to those early 2010s Derrick Rose Bulls. When we talk about an Iron Man, Tibbs worked that poor man to death. So, and I think he might have an all-star appearance to show for it.
Yeah,
he's a very solid two-way talent, and he was always very, very dependable, and you could always rely on him.
Luol Deng's a good pick. Versatile player. He's one of those guys that you can really appreciate because he worked himself into being an all-star. He's not a naturally gifted or talented player, but he worked his way into that. Like just on getting into the gym, getting into the lab. He's one of those guys that never quits on plays, high motor, relentless, and which fits the Tom Thibodeau style, which is why if you look at Luol Deng, I think he's got a few years where he played 40-plus minutes a game. That fits with what Tibbs likes to do with his starters. So, yeah, Luol Deng, that's a great pick for underrated player of the week.
Well, and of course, we'll just get right into it. Obviously, these last 2 days, we've had the NBA draft. Some shocking news, some not so shocking results from it. So let's pull that sucker right on up. So here's part of the first round of the NBA draft. The rest of it's a little further down, but let's start with your team, Mo. We might as well get the big one out of the way.
Sure.
What did you think about the Lakers draft?
I just thought drafting Connect is one of the best picks they've made in recent years. It's not even close. Think about their recent draft picks, and Connect by far is one of their best picks. Like in this particular draft, even though he was drafted 17th, I could see him having a better career than a lot of guys that are inside the top 10. And with his shooting ability, with his athleticism, ability to attack the basket, to play off of star players, and I do think that it does matter. Like he's 23. I think that he's kind of old schooled it. He's played a full 4 years. He's ready made to plug into a lineup. I think he's going to be in the rotation immediately, and I think he's going to have a positive impact. Like I think Dalton Connect is going to have a very good rookie season. I think he's going to make all rookie team with ease.
No, I agree with that. I was talking in a Discord chat about Dalton Connect, and I said I'm predicting halfway through his rookie season he's starting. I'm guessing they'll start him out on the bench and slowly ramp him up. And I'm guessing at least halfway through, you're going to see him in the starting lineup. The kid's immensely talented. In college, he was a 3-level scorer. Obviously, that's going to be a little harder to come by in the NBA, but at least we know he'll give you the 3. He can attack the rim, and he'll play his butt off on defense. Overall, I thought that was arguably the best pick of the draft, getting him at 17. Absolutely phenomenal job.
Yeah, for fit and what they need, he answers the bells on everything. So, like I said, again, he's got to prove it on the floor. And are there players that have higher ceilings? I agree. There are players that have higher ceilings, but I think he's the kind of guy, Brett, honestly, he can hit his ceiling within a year or two, and that'll be great for the Lakers. Like, I think he's a guy that consistently can give you 18 to 20 points a night in a different kind of role. So it's a great pick for the Lakers. There's no shortage of talent in this draft. I would just say I don't know how many guys that we have in this draft that are going to be stars. I think there are going to be some very good players. This draft to me would do well if you get 3 stars out of it.
Yeah, that's the way I've always thought about this draft. Everybody says it's weak, and I think when you're talking about the draft, like the top end talent, that's true. That's weaker than most drafts, but I think the rest of this draft really doesn't differ that much from other drafts. I think there's a lot of diamonds in the roughs. It's obviously just when you start trying to compare like Zachary Rashier to like, Wemby and Banchero, and you start comparing the top end talent, then you see where the draft is weak comparison comes from. But overall, like I would say for your team, don't get discouraged thinking, oh, these guys are going to be bad. It's a weak draft. The talent's fine. It's just like Mo just said, you're not going to find any superstar franchise cornerstones in this one. You're not going to find a 1A, but you're going to find a lot of quality rotational players. I can see a lot of these guys contributing to title teams.
That's the best way to put it. I think there are a lot of really good players in this draft, a lot of winning players that can help a contender win. So, look, I think there might end up being a couple of stars out of this draft, but if there are, I don't know if it's going to be like in the top 5. If there are a couple of stars in this draft, it may be somebody drafted 20th or in the top, the bottom half of the top 20. I just think that this is a very balanced draft. And if your scouts are doing their job, everybody can get value in this draft.
Hey, what up, Gene? What up, Key? Thank you for tuning in.
What's good, Key? Gene, what's up, man?
Well, yeah, that's fair. And I was going to say one pick that I did like is I think Jared McCain for the 76ers, their pick. I think he's going to be a great impact player right off the bat. But there's one guy I want to talk about in general before we get to the Lakers' second round pick, which was apparently the biggest name in the entire draft.
Right.
Because I heard that Zach Edey was getting slandered for going 9 to Memphis, saying things like, that was one of the worst draft picks we've ever seen. First off, I can name you like $5 that would have been a worse draft pick than Zach Edey. If you think that he was worse than Joe Alexander, is he worse than Rashad Vaughn, Thon Maker in the lottery? Like, come on now. He definitely wasn't. And when we're talking about the Memphis Grizzlies, they've had a Steven Adams-sized hole in their roster. They needed a big guy that could rebound, and the big thing, too, is set really good screens, which sounds inconsequential, but playing with Steven Adams, Ja Morant was playing some of the best basketball of his career, and a big part of that was Steven Adams was such a good screener. Ja would get so much space to get going downhill. So overall, honestly, I thought that was an absolutely phenomenal pick by Memphis. So I guess I don't understand where they're coming from with saying it was one of the worst picks ever.
I think we're on the same page, partner. We talk about fit often. As soon as they said Memphis took Zach Edey, I thought that was a need position. But also, Zach Edey gives you another element. Steven Adams gives you the physicality. He's a rebounder, a defender. Zach Edey, I think, can do both of those things. But Zach Edey also can get you buckets. He's not limited to not being able to score. Good around the basket with both hands. It finishes well. He's got a jump hook. I'm just saying, a team that we didn't talk about this year, Brett, because of the injuries. But we're gonna have to put them into the conversation. A healthy Memphis Grizzlies team with Ja back, with Bane back, Jackson. Then you're adding a Zach Edey, not to mention you're getting Marcus Smart. That is a playoff team. Somebody that made the playoffs this year is not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I were the Memphis Grizzlies, my big board really would have been one of the two centers. It would have been Donovan Clingan. I think he was probably first on their big board, but once he went, to the Blazers, then at that point, the only answer for them was Zach Edey, because you start looking at the other names that went, like Nikola Topic. Okay, they don't need another guard. Cody Williams sounds fun, but it all comes back to it doesn't really matter because that need at center was so massive. And now you don't have to go out and overpay somebody. Like, you don't have to go out and pay Isaiah Hartenstein like 25 mil or 20 mil, which right. I think my Isaiah Hartenstein to the Grizzlies dream might be dead now, but.
Well, you know what? I mean, look, they say that I think the Knicks, their first offer to him was for $75 million, but there's some teams out there prepared to give Hartenstein upwards of $90 million. And look, I think he's a good player. High energy player. He's kind of Steven Adams like, but he's a much better passer. He's a more fluent player. So I see his value. So I don't think he'll have a shortage of suitors. I think he would be a good fit with Oklahoma City. But when you look at the draft Oklahoma City had, I don't know if they necessarily need him now.
I do like their pick on Nikola Topic. He was somebody that I was high on going into the draft. Obviously, he fell. He had a partially torn ACL, it was learned, so he kind of dropped. What's up, Jory? Thank you all for tuning in.
Hey, what's up, Jory?
But yeah, he's somebody that dropped because of the injury, but at the end of the day, I still like his court vision. I think, and they say that free throw shooting can indicate how good of a shooter you can be. A lot of people are comparing him and Josh Giddey, but Josh Giddey was a 67% free throw shooter. Topic knocks him down at like an 88% clip. He does have some really good touch, so I have a lot of hope that he can develop a jumper. He's got really good court vision. And I think the big question is, will he be able to develop his defense? But I think at worst, they're going to have a really good trade piece with Nikola Topic or a really good backup to Shea.
I think what they did is they just literally replaced Giddey. And they replaced Giddey with somebody who was a naturally better scorer. Topic, when he attacks the basket, he can pass, but he looks to score. He's a much more aggressive scorer. So I'm not saying Zach Giddey didn't have any value, but again, Sam Presti is so smart, so adept at recognizing talent. He just literally took one of those picks and went out and got Zach Giddey 2.0, and they won't miss a beat.
Well, Mo, I guess it's time because I think, as we've heard, the Lakers had a second pick in the draft. At pick 55, the Lakers select Bronny James. And now I don't think anybody was shocked. So I guess my question to you, Mo, is because I know Lakers fans have already seen like posts of what's Bronny going to average his rookie year. What are the expectations, and how badly should we temper these expectations for Bronny?
So I'm sure like I know, he's not on one of those two separate contracts, right? He's literally going to be on the regular roster. That was that's the power of Clutch Sports, the power of who your pops is. So he's going to be on the regular roster. He may play sometimes in the G League or whatever, but he's going to be on the regular roster. I think that he's a legitimate prospect. I think people should temper their expectations because the team is going to go in with the expectations of competing and getting into the playoffs. I think Bronny's got to go with the expectations of improving his game, developing over the course of the season, and seeing if he can actually earn time in a regular rotation, which would be huge. If he could break into the rotation, that would be monstrous. But I'm going to just put it out there. I don't think that's going to happen in year one. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think that the team, if they're really on that mission to win or really be considered a a contender, I don't think Bronny's going to be in their top 8 or 9.
Bronny getting Rookie of the Year. LeBron going to get him 10 assists per game. Hey, maybe, Alex, maybe. Crazier things have happened.
I don't know how that's going to happen, Alex, because that would mean that LeBron would be giving the ball to Bronny, right? Like LeBron likes to get them assists too. So I'm just saying.
Pass me the ball, son. I got you. Yeah, that's one thing that I do want to say about Bronny is, I've said it before, I say it again. I think that he can be a really good rotation piece in the NBA. Have player comp him to DeAnthony Melton. If he reaches his absolute top peak, I think he could be maybe like a Marcus Smart kind of player. And that's awesome. But don't expect it right out of the gate. At the end of the day, he was the 55th pick for a reason. He's still a young kid that needs a lot of seasoning and development. So, I know a lot of people are going to blast the pick. Oh, lay GM at it again, etc. But at the end of the day, that's all right. For starters, 55th picks don't normally make an impact anyway, so I didn't really mind the pick there anyway. And then, of course, he's a legit prospect. Just give him time. Don't jump on him right away. He needs seasoning, just like every other prospect that was taken.
Correct. And don't forget this. What the Lakers also are doing, and it's something that they've done in the history of the Lakers, they will always capitulate to their star players or do whatever it takes to make their star players feel that much more appreciated. They didn't have to draft Bronny at 55. And LeBron will say he didn't say they needed to, but without him saying it, they needed to. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Of course they need. And Jeannie with no hesitation, because that's how she rolls. The same way when she gave Kobe that huge contract late in his career, and he wasn't really Kobe anymore, but they gave him that money just the same, because that's the Lakers want to be perceived as, this is how we treat stars, no matter what. This is how we show our loyalty. So I think LeBron's probably going to opt out this weekend at some point. But I don't doubt that he's going to re-sign with the Lakers. This is just one of those things where Jeannie and them were like, whatever he decides to do, let's go ahead and do this, because he hasn't asked us to, but we know he wants this. And like you said, it's very rare that the 55th pick has great impact in the draft. It's happened before, but that's more exception than rule. I think Bronny is a prospect, but because he's 18 years old, Brett, I think you can give him a year, you can give him 2 years before you get the dividends back of what he could be.
I will say this. I will agree with Alex here. If I had to pick a James brother to be more excited, or a James kid to be more excited,
he's better.
Bryce has a really fun game to watch. I do like Bryce.
Bryce has a game that's closer to his dad's game. Like, Bryce can put the ball on the deck. Bryce can score. Bryce is more well-rounded. I think he's more gifted. Bronny might be the better athlete, but Bryce is the better player.
And one more thing I want to say about Bronny too, because this drove me up a wall, right? Because everybody just kind of posts his stats. Oh, he only scored 5 a game. When you're judging a college player, you don't just go by counting stats. You can score like 10 a game and still get drafted high. It depends on other things. All the little things that you do matter. It's all film. How well do you rotate? Are you always in position? Are your passes accurate? Okay, what happens if you're down? Are you giving up on plays? Like, I think too many people think that counting stats are just the end-all, be-all. So you see like 5, 8 points a game or whatever, and you'll be like, oh, man, this guy's a bust. What are we doing here? But
look,
at the end of the
numbers
day,
have value, but they're not everything.
Right. Like, they tell a story, but they're not the whole story. Yeah, exactly. College stats don't matter, not to mention he was also coming back from that heart issue.
Right.
Yeah, and speaking of low numbers, I don't even know what to make of the Bucks draft. I really don't. You
didn't like anything about it at all?
No. So I think I liked Tyler Smith. I did like Tyler Smith. I think that he's a great talent. I thought our 33rd pick was awesome. He can stretch the floor. He can attack the rim. And the best part about him too, and to me this is the most important part, is he plays really well off the ball. And when you're playing with guys like Giannis and Dame Lillard, you need guys that can attack off the ball. He's a legit I think it's 6'9" or 6'10". So he can slide into power forward or center. His flaws are his defense is still a work in progress. He can get lost out there. Just kind of your basic kind of rookie things. You just got to get him straightened out. But overall, Tyler Smith, I like that one. It's A.J. Johnson that I'm a little concerned about.
Not feeling the love, huh?
So I'm not saying that A.J. Johnson's going to be a bad basketball player. I'm just thinking that I'm not sure where he fits on this Bucks team. Because A.J. Johnson, when I watched him, he looked electric. He was driving to the rim. His jumper is inconsistent, but it was there. He showed flashes. But when you watch film on him, you realize something. He's doing this all with the ball in his hands. His off-ball game really wasn't there, and that's concerning to me. When you're talking about, once again, this is a win-now team. This is going to be a guy that needs a lot of, extra practice, a lot of seasoning. And there's no way that he's going to get minutes, playing next to Dame or Giannis, unless you're going to move him to the bench. But even with the bench units, Chris Middleton is going to dominate the ball, and Bobby Portis. I question if he can impact the game without the ball in his hands. And I think that's kind of concerning to me.
It's a fair criticism, but what I would push back on is, just like you said, the players can be coached up defensively. I think good coaching can teach him how to play off the ball. What he naturally can do, Brett, is a need thing in the NBA. With the ball in his hands, he can break people down off the dribble and create for himself, which is something that the Bucks have a need for. You have Giannis who can get his own shot. You have Dame who can get his own shot. Middleton to a degree, but again, Middleton is on the other side of his prime, and that's it. The rest of your bench guys, they're hit or miss. This kid, I get it that he needs to show that he can play without the ball in his hands, but with the ball in his hands, can you imagine what he does when he's turning the corner on a pick and roll? I'm just saying they can use him. He can be effective. And remember, he did this at an effective level in college. The NBA game is spaced a lot more. I just think his game is tailor-made for the pro game. So I think the benefits or the things that he does well right now, they will far outweigh his flaws.
Yeah, I think he could still be a very good player. I do like him. I think he could still be great. I think maybe the issue is I'm kind of looking at a lens of what can he do for me this year, and I don't
right because you want to win a title. Just say it, put it out there.
We're in that win now mode,
right?
I think this could be. I think he very well, 2 or 3 years down the road, could really pay some good dividends. He's definitely got talent.
I think. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think what he could do for you guys, he could do something. He could do something similar for you that Jordan Poole did for Golden State.
I'm hoping so. Like I said, I believe in him. I'm gonna trust that a horse made the right choice. So I'm not out on him. I'm just unsure. We'll go with unsure.
I get it, but you guys needed some. You needed some athleticism. You needed some youth, and I thought they went out and got those things.
Yeah, that's fair. Now the question is, will Doc actually let the youth play?
Well, that's a whole nother matter.
That will always be the $1 million question. That frustrated me last year with Andre Jackson Jr. We won the minutes he was in the playoffs, but when it came down to it, he was putting in Danilo Gallinari in over him. I like Gal can shoot, but that's it. He's old. He can't do much besides that.
I like what you guys did. And look, since we're talking about your team, I like that the fact that you guys brought Darvin Ham in. He already has relationships there within the organization. And I think that Darvin Ham is exactly what you guys need as an assistant. You need somebody to get in Doc's ear to tell Doc, hey, Doc, we can't just run the veterans in the hole. Like, you got to get some of these young legs out there. So I think Darvin Ham is the perfect assistant to be a bug in Doc's ear.
Yeah, a lot of people were hating on that move because they're like, oh, Darvin Ham won the Lakers. But a lot of people I don't think realize that all because you might not have been a great head coach in your opinion, that doesn't mean you're not a great assistant coach. Like we've seen often, like an assistant coach can be a top-notch assistant coach like Darvin Ham was. Maybe head coaching career doesn't work out, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he's still a top-end assistant coach.
Facts.
And we saw that in Milwaukee. He was a great factor on our bench the entire time he was here.
A little known fact, even though they talk a lot about Heat culture and Heat Nation, a guy that was on those benches for a lot of those championships as an assistant coach, he never was a head coach, was a Hall of Famer, Bob McAdoo. Bob McAdoo was an assistant coach with the Heat forever. But I think Bob McAdoo didn't have aspirations to be a head coach. I don't think that's what he wanted. His comfort zone, his lane was as an assistant coach, and he shined that way. Some guys, like you said, Brett, they're great assistant coaches. But as a head coach, when you have to be more of a manager and be responsible for everything that goes on within the team, I think some guys just can't handle that.
No, that's fair. Ooh, a little, but obviously we're like I said, the draft. I want to congratulate everybody that got drafted. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
It is.
Only 60 names get called every year, 58. So 58 got called last night. So congratulations to everybody.
Right.
You made it, but now the real grind starts.
It does. And the next step is what? We're gonna see them in Summer League, right?
I'm so looking forward to Summer League. I guess we got to get through the Olympics first, but
I'm excited for the Olympics as well.
So why don't we talk about some off season? Because that's up next. But I want to get your thoughts on the things that happened last week. Of course, we had the Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey swap. That a lot of people don't like it for the Bulls. So
well, I'll let you answer first, and then I'll respond.
Oh yeah, I don't mind it for the Bulls. I don't mind them getting Giddey, but I still think it was in favor of the Thunder because at the end of the day, I don't think it should have been an even 1-for-1 swap. I'm thinking there's no way the Bulls shouldn't have come out of that with at least a second or a first. They should have gotten a couple picks out of that. There's just no way that you go in to a negotiation with the Thunder and don't leave with one of their picks. They have like 35 of them. And I think Giddey has potential, but at the same time, you're also dealing a guy who was so good that teams are offering up first round picks. The 13th pick in the draft was offered for Alex Caruso. We had apparently at one point a top 10 pick was offered for Caruso. So do I think that the Thunder won the trade? Yes. And is it because I don't believe in Giddey? Not necessarily. It's the fact that there's no way you don't get a first at least coming back from the Thunder in that exchange.
I feel like we were just watching the same thing happen. And as it was happening, I couldn't believe that they traded him one-on-one straight up. That's it. Oklahoma City has like 45 number one picks or so. And the asking price for Alex Caruso, the Bulls put it out there initially. They were asking for a first-round pick all last year when teams were coming at them, and teams were like, nah, we're not going to give you a pick, not a first-round pick. And now they didn't come away with anything. Look, I think Josh Giddey is a really good player. I want to put that out there. I'm not bagging on Josh Giddey. I think Josh Giddey, though, he's not a centerpiece player. When you add a Josh Giddey, you're still adding a complementary player. You don't build around Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey's the guy you build around your franchise player. He's an add-on player. He's a guy that does a lot of things really well, but he's not great at any one thing. I think he's a complementary player. Alex Caruso does two things great, Brett. You know this. Elite defensive player and can shoot the three ball at a high level. If Alex Caruso was a member of the Thunder last year, I don't think they lose that series to the Dallas Mavericks. That's the impact that he would have had on both sides of the ball. So, yes, it's a great move for the Thunder. And I know he kind of messes them up a little bit because outside of Shea, who's 25, everybody else is 23 and under. So Caruso's going to be walking there and be the old man or something like that. But he's going to be the old man, I promise you, that will have the most. The only other guy that might match him energy-wise, Brett, will be Lou Dort. But can you imagine in a fourth quarter with Shea, Lou Dort, and Caruso, not to mention J-Dub locking down the way they can lock down potentially. Chet's going to be a year better coming from the weak side blocking shots. I think Topic will play. I think if he's healthy, it would not shock me if he doesn't break into the regular rotation. He's that talented. Like I said, he's Getty, but better.
Yeah, absolutely. That Thunder team, it very well might end up being the best defensive team in the NBA. Like that would not surprise me because, like you just said, a closing lineup with Shea, Dort, Alex Caruso, J-Dub, and Chet. You can't score on that, or you can, but you're going to expend a lot of energy trying to.
And you can't leave them open on the other end of the court. All of them can shoot the ball.
Mm-hmm. And Shea was one of the better players in the playoffs. He showed that no moment's too big for him. A lot of people were quick to say that Anthony Edwards did better than Shea last year in the playoffs, and I'd push back on that. I think Shea was right up there at Anthony Edwards' level last year in the playoffs.
Shea didn't play well. If you watch the Mavs series, what happened was J-Dub struggled. Chet struggled a little bit late in games, but Shea was Shea. It wasn't like Dallas was stopping him from doing what he does. It's just that the other guys struggled a little bit, and I think a lot of that has to do with their youth. I'm looking at Oklahoma City, and I'm not going to jump ahead and say they're going to win the title, but I think that their only weakness before was they had a lack of experience. I think they needed to be more floor balanced. Caruso just did that because of what he does on both sides of the floor. I think Chet's going to be a year better. I think J-Dub's going to be a year better. I think the Wiggins kid that nobody talks about that comes off their bench is in their rotation, who's very good, is going to be a year better. Don't forget, what's the kid that came from the Sixers? Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe is money when he can just catch and raise up. So the only thing they really don't have is actual size, but they did address that in the draft. And we're not done yet. We haven't gotten to free agency because I'm sure, depending on what the price is, they're going to be looking at a couple of those bigs that are going to be available in free agency.
Yeah, if they get Hartenstein, that's going to be absolutely terrifying for the rest of the league.
He can pass too, Brett. He's a good passer too. Like he's not a big time scorer. Super high basketball IQ, very good passer. His motor is nonstop. If he gets with that team right there, one, shame on the Knicks, and two, the Western Conference better look out. Like if they get somebody like that, they're going to be a whole problem.
So of course there was one more big trade that shook everybody up. Mikal Bridges is officially a New York Knick. And that was, I'm not going to lie, that was a really steep price. I did not expect that many picks to go out. I think it was a total of 5 first, a protected first, a pick swap, and a second-round pick, and Bojan Bogdanovic, which that doesn't bother me at all. But, yeah, that was a lot of picks to go out for Mikal. So I guess my question to you, Mo, is what do you think?
So normally when I see that kind of trade, I go, well, they must have just traded for a franchise player when you look at the haul that they gave out. But when you get Bridges, yes, I know he's not a franchise player, but if you're talking about fit and you're talking about what he does in their scheme, Mikal Bridges, he's Josh Hart and DiVincenzo rolled into one player. And they're going to all be on the same team. Like, he's another dog, but he can lock down and he can give you 18 or 20 points a night. The Knicks are very unique in that I think their management, their coaching staff, they all got together and they said, look at the Eastern Conference. It's wide open. There are 3 teams that you're concerned about if they're 100% healthy and ready to go. It's the defending champion Celtics. It's the Knicks. It's the Bucks. I'll throw in a fourth. It's the Sixers, depending on what they do. even, and I know somebody's going to say, well, Mo, wait a minute, the Pacers, I get it. The Pacers, but I look at what the Pacers did, and I think it's very similar to what the Mavericks did. I think they had a great run. I don't think this is the start of the Pacers being a perennial title contender. I still think when I look at Indiana, while they're fun to watch, they're very versatile. What they don't have that nobody talks about is, yes, Siakam is reliable. You can book him for about 21, 22 points a game. I like what Halliburton can do with pace, but what they don't have in late game situations, when everything's not going right, they don't have a player on their roster that can compensate for when things aren't going right. They don't have that guy. Siakam's not that guy. He's not like that. It isn't Miles Turner, and Halliburton is a reluctant scorer. It's not him. His mentality is to pass first. And until they identify or acquire that guy, that will be what holds them back. I'm not knocking them. They'll make the playoffs again, but I'm talking about title contenders. That's Philly. That's the Bucks. Obviously, the defending champions and the Knicks. Those are title contenders. And look, I'm not sure Philly's going to be there if they don't add to what they have. I don't think what they currently have is enough. I think they need another scorer. They need another piece. But if they can pull that off, they're right there in the hunt. I look at your team, and I'm like, if Milwaukee's healthy, and I can't stress this enough, they were just a very stuck in the mud team because take away the name Giannis, they had no athletes. Bobby Portis is somewhat athletic, but I wouldn't call him an athlete. Everybody else is just, I mean, Dame is quick, but he's a little guy. I'm talking about your wings. I'm talking about some of your bigs. Like, you don't even have guys that I would call that are rim runners. I just think Milwaukee desperately needed some athleticism. I don't think you can just walk the ball up and give the ball to Giannis all the time and go, Giannis, make something happen. I think they need to be more than just Giannis. I think they need to be more than just Dame and Giannis. And it'll be interesting to see if they can incorporate some, because sometimes you get these coaches like Doc Rivers, your coach, who gets stuck in the mud and is reluctant to put younger players into their rotation. And I think if Milwaukee's going to fulfill what they could fulfill and be a title contender, you're going to have a balance of youth and veterans. It's going to have to be a balance. It can't just be all these guys that are on the other side of 30 playing major minutes.
See, we actually both really liked the Zach Edey pick.
We do.
Perfect pick. It was dressed a position of need for the Grizz. I'd probably keep the Hart. Yeah. That's the next move for the Knicks. I really did.
Alex, I'm with you. Brett knows how I feel about Julius Randle. I've only been talking about it forever. I'm with you. They don't need Julius Randle. They don't need him. It's not an accident. They went from 5th to 2nd. As soon as he got hurt, they got better. Everybody else got to touch the ball. Julius Randle is a black hole. And it's not like he gets better in the playoffs. He actually gets much, much worse. They don't need Julius Randle. This is not me saying Julius Randle's not a talented player. What I am saying is the way the Knicks play at their best, they don't need his talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's my thing. It's what I think the Knicks will thrive on. And we saw this last year when Randle went down. It's not only the fact that everybody touched the ball. We have guys like DiVincenzo, Brunson, Hart. All of them played together before. They had absolutely insane chemistry. And you add Bridges, who also played with them. I think Julius Randle just hurts the team at that point because they exploded because it was just a lot of ball movement, timely cuts, and they were just all on the same page. You put Julius Randle on there, Julius Randle's not going to cut.
No, you know what he's going to do?
Catch the ball.
Catch the ball at the three-point line. Catch the ball at the three-point line, pump fake, ISO, take a couple of dribbles, and then decide whether or not he's going to shoot a step-back contested three.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they don't need. So at this point, even if it's just like a salary dump, it's almost like addition by subtraction. And that's nothing against Julius Randle. He's just now in a situation where his play style just does not fit the current iteration of the New York Knicks.
That's a perfect way to describe it. It's not that he's not talented. I think he would have value on other teams and would fit in other teams in a different role. The Knicks don't need him. The perception is, and it's by mostly Knicks fans, Brett, the perception is they're still saying Julius Randle's their best player. How could you move your best player? And what I'm saying is, no, Brunson's your best player now. And it's Brunson's team. I'm not saying that you said something that I never even thought about, but it might be a reality. If I could move Julius Randle and just get the cap space back in return, I would do that too. I would do that too, because I just gave OG $212 million. I need all the cap space I can get.
Exactly. And I think Alex is right. I think they have to re-sign Hartenstein.
Yeah.
Because you think that you go, well, they have Mitchell Robinson. When you need Mitchell Robinson, he's not there. He stays hurt, and that's going to be an issue. I saw some people trying to point out that, well, if you keep Julius Randle, you can run him as a small ball 5. Yeah, that's a good way for your defense to get hammered at the rim is the issue. There's no rim protector in that case. So
I was getting ready to say, run him at 5 and watch the other team just go to the hole at will.
No, exactly. So I think Hartenstein is a must for them. But if he doesn't stay in New York, look out for OKC. I think they'll be on the hunt for him also.
You brought up a great point. I think Hartenstein's value trumps Mitchell's value, or Mitchell Robinson's value. I think they have to move if they have to move Robinson to make the money work for Hartenstein, then move Robinson. Like you said, Mitchell Robinson, 9 times out of 10, he's hurt, right? He's one of those kind of guys, he rolls out of bed and something's got tweaked. And when he plays, he doesn't give you nowhere near the energy or the effort that Hartenstein shows and recovers in a way that very few bigs can do. There's only a couple of bigs who do it a lot better than him, and that's Claxton and Bam Adebayo. And Bam is unique because Bam, obviously, if we're being real, he's not really a 5. He's a 4, and he's extremely quick and agile, so he can show and recover and play in space. I think they have to re-sign Hartenstein. The question is, though, how high a number? Like, let me ask you, you're the Knicks. Hartenstein and his agent goes, we're looking for over $100 million, and then we can sign. You're going to make that move? You're giving him $100 million?
I mean, I think I would.
Okay.
It sounds like a high number, but I would kind of look almost just right across the borough there. Nick Claxton just got $100 million.
Right, but the Nets are stupid. that's the Nets. They're stupid.
That's fair, but it's like the price of role players are now just going up, and up. I think that would be a contract if you give them 20-25 mil a year. That would it look rough right at the beginning? Yeah, absolutely. But I think the thing to take into consideration is, we have new TV deals coming out. They've just finalized it. So the cap's probably about to jump up a little bit more than we'd think. So I think that'd be a contract where you look at it and go, well, this doesn't look good now. And then 2 years when the cap jumps because of the new TV deals, like, oh, wow, now that deal looks awesome.
And you might be right. Let me just say this because you brought up an excellent point about Claxton's contract. And by the way, I'm a big Nick Claxton fan. I don't understand, though, like, the Knicks, I understand why you're going to go after and try to bring back the big man, because that just makes sense because of what he's done. Hartenstein was great for them. But they're a title contender. The Nets are in full rebuild mode. You just traded away your best player. So when you tell your season ticket holders or your fan base, well, we're in rebuild mode, but we just retained Nicholas Claxton for $100 million. I don't understand that move at all. Not because Claxton's not a fine role player, but he's not even a role player on that team. Nicholas Claxton's got a chance to be your best player. That's how bad the Nets are. So I don't understand that at all. That's what's troubling. Like, you're going to be like season ticket holders, and they're going to put it out there in big lights, Nicholas Claxton and the Nets. Like, I'm not signing up for that. That's not a knock against Nick Claxton. It just doesn't make sense. You know damn well you're in a rebuild mode, and your biggest move is you re-sign Claxton. That's why the Nets are a bad franchise.
To be fair, it's going to be a lot of fun watching Cam Thomas take as many shots as he pleases.
He may lead the lead in scoring, Brett. They might only win 20 games, but if I would not be shy. Tell me I'm wrong. Barring injury, Cam Thomas may lead the league in scoring. Now, he might not shoot the highest percentage, but I'm just talking about on raw numbers, he could lead the league in scoring.
It's going to be the ugliest 30 points a night you'll ever see, but he'll get there.
He will get there.
Wish the Warriors would get Hartenstein. When we had Cousins, I was pumped, but he was hurt. It sounds interesting in theory, the Warriors getting Hartenstein, but I think the issue you always come back to with the Warriors is they don't prioritize the center position. Just with the way they use players and run their schemes, it's just not something they've ever done. Like, we look at their history of centers, it's Andrew Bogut, Festus Ezeli, Mo Spates. I think David West played some center in there. Boogie Cousins. And now, we're at Kevon Looney. But it works for them because they're not a team that really relies on the center position. They just want a center that's going to compete, grab boards, grab offensive rebounds, and set hard screens to create space for their guards. So,
and more importantly, they're not going to take a center that's worth $100 or that's going to cost $100. They don't value like you just said, they don't value that position to the point they're not going to pay $100 million for a center. If they're going to upgrade, since we're still talking about free agency and things that could happen, if they're going to upgrade their roster, they're going to stay true to what they do, and they're going to go out and get a wing, which is why you hear the rumors that Golden State is interested in Paul George, and they're willing to give him that 4th year on the contract. Something the Clippers aren't willing to do. Let me ask you, Brett, if you're the Clippers, do you respond to that and go, no, we're going to go ahead and give him the 4th year because we're moving into the new building and we need to give it like one more try with him and Kawhi? Or if you're the Clippers, do you go, well, maybe we do a sign and trade?
I think at that point you consider a sign and trade. They really do. The issue with Paul George is you can tell his body's starting to break down. It hasn't been able to last a full season and postseason run. And now he wants a full 4-year max. No, I can't be doing that if I'm the Clippers. I completely understand where they're coming from. And
I'm with you.
I get the Warriors being desperate enough to try it, but if they do this, I think this ages very poorly for them too.
Okay, but let me ask you this question. Let's say the Warriors are desperate enough to try it. They're thinking, and I know you already know this isn't even really about Paul George. This is about maxing out the last 3 years of Steph's prime, right? This is about Steph. If the Warriors do it, and I agree that the contract's going to age badly, but if they were to get another surprise championship the way they did a couple of years ago, immediately the contract would be worth every penny. Agreed?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if Paul George was god-awful, stayed hurt the rest of the amount of the contract, you still would go money well spent.
Yeah, and that's almost the issue too, because the West is just getting better. It's not like it's a weak Western Conference and a weak Eastern Conference where you can just run through it. Both sides are just all of a sudden rapidly improving any year. You survive the gauntlet of the West, and if you run into the Bucks, if they make it to the finals, they're fully healthy. That's a tough one. Or you run into the Boston Celtics again. That's another tough one. So, would a team like the Warriors, and I know you can go, well, they beat the Celtics 2 years ago. This isn't the same Celtics team as 2 years ago. A lot of people
the same Warriors.
Right, and that's the big thing. So, I think if they tries to push for that 4th year, you consider a sign and trade. Maybe even if it's see if they'll send Clay. CP3 has a non-guaranteed contract you could trade for and cut right away to save money. So there's a lot of options to go.
They don't want to pay them. So what you're saying is the Clippers would get Clay and CP3 in return, which isn't bad. It isn't bad. It's a completely different look for them. Although the dynamics would be interesting because CP3 and Harden didn't really end on the best terms. So I just find that would be interesting in itself.
That's why I'm thinking that maybe they trade for CP3, but his deal is non-guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So they could almost trade. I'd have to look at the CBA to see if this is possible. I believe they could just trade him and then just kind of cut
They
him
can
before
cut
the
'em.
money gets guaranteed.
Yes, they can cut
And
him.
then
You're
kind
right.
of just save that cap room to hopefully, sign somebody else. But
I think the Clippers are in a really weird spot because they've already committed to Kawhi. We both know Kawhi's going to come out next season, be terrific, be an all NBA talent. And I'm not trying to play like I can see the future, but we've seen how this book has ended time and time again. He's probably going to get hurt at or around playoff time. I don't know why that is. It just is. And they're going to falter.
can CP3 just retire?
I
He's
love
getting there.
CP3. Look, I feel like when we talk about all-time great players like Chris Paul, part of you wants to say, can he just walk away, give it some time, then go straight into the Hall of Fame? And then there's another part of you is you can tell Chris Paul is maniacal in that way, Brett, where he's like, just one more chance to win a title, just one more. Like he wants to do it so bad, and I don't think that he doesn't have anything left. He actually had a really good year for the Warriors coming off the bench. I think he just keeps going to the wrong horses. Like going to the Clippers, he's not going to get a shot to play for the title. Staying with the Warriors, I feel the same way. I think if he wants a legitimate shot, he already took a reserve role. Could he take another reserve role and say play for the Denver Nuggets? Could he play for the Nuggets coming off the bench? I think Chris Paul is still an upgrade from Reggie Jackson. They just moved Reggie Jackson. So Chris Paul will be an upgrade in Denver, and they're title contenders. So I think if he goes to a legitimate title contender, why shouldn't he go give it one more shot?
Yeah, and that's the thing too with Chris Paul that I think is important is I think he's willing to walk away without winning a title because I don't think he wants that like Tracy McGrady attempt at a title. He doesn't want that Robert Parrish 1997 title. He wants a title where he can contribute even like an 06 Gary Payton, even if it's in a limited role, that he can say, yeah, I earned this. I don't think he wants to be the guy that becomes a trivia like, hey, did you know Chris Paul won a title sitting at the end of the Milwaukee Bucks or Clippers bench in 2024?
He's not cut like that. You're 100% right. He does not want that Mitch Richmond title when Mitch Richmond just sat over there on the Lakers bench in sweats. He doesn't want that. He don't want the McGrady title. He wants to be a contributor to a title winner. And I'm as a basketball fan and a Chris Paul fan, I would have no problem if as long as he realizes, hey man, you got to go to a title contender, give yourself a real shot. I don't care if he goes to the Denver Nuggets. I don't care if he goes to the East and wants to be a backup point guard on your Bucks. He's a terrific shooter, still got a great mid-range game, superior basketball IQ. There's a place for Chris Paul the same way that there's still a place for guys like Mike Conley on the Timberwolves. He just has to find the right fit.
I think the right fit, and if I had to guess a good place for Chris Paul to potentially go, I think the perfect fit, if he is intent on staying another year and he wants to make an impact, I think it's the Denver Nuggets. I think, and the reason I say that is they're going to lose KCP this year. They're going to have to plug in even more young guys to come off that bench. And who better than someone like CP3 when he's healthy and able to kind of lead that bench unit? And he's a guy that even when he's not playing, he can still impart wisdom onto these young rookies and up-and-comers in Denver. So, and it gives them a real title shot. So if I had to pick a CP3 destination and he wants to play another year, I would say go to Denver, man.
I would like him in Denver. Here's the thing that's weird about it, right? At some point, we do this. An all-time great player, you see him in a certain uniform, and you just kind of shake your head like it doesn't. It feels so wrong. Seeing Chris Paul in a Nuggets uniform is going to feel the way it felt when I saw Olajuwon in a Raptors uniform. When I saw Patrick Ewing in a Sonics or a Magic uniform. That's so wrong. You don't want to see that, man. And I know that's me. That's me, the fan, being selfish. The other side of me, the fan, is like, if CP3 still thinks he can impact the game, which I agree with him, yes, don't play just for the sake of playing. Go to not just a title contender, go to a title contender that already has a ready-made role for you. I think you're right. Like I said before, I think Denver is a perfect fit for him. I think Denver's still a title contender, and I think he could on Denver, he would only have to play like 18 minutes a game. Just give them 18 minutes a game controlling the bench squad. And I think he would be perfect for them because, like you said, they're gonna play more young players. A guy like him, his true value, Brett, it might be what he says in the locker room or in practice.
Oh, absolutely. So, well, I'm stealing an idea right now. I actually stole it from watching Wire to Wire on Wednesday. Which, if you haven't checked it out, definitely check out Wire to Wire on Wednesdays.
We love Wire to Wire. And just for the record, guys, I had no idea. I'm not part of him stealing.
They did something, and I really liked it. I have a list of the top free agents here, and it's really simple. I want to play this game with you, and I want to see where you think these guys are going to end up.
Sure.
So, first name, big name, LeBron James. I think we can probably both agree that he's heading back to the Lakers.
I think he's going back to the Lakers.
Let's see. Tyrese Maxey, he's not going anywhere.
He's going back to the Sixers. He's going to get his money.
Here's where this gets interesting to me because we already talked about Paul George. So we'll go one more down. DeMar DeRozan. Where does DeMar DeRozan end up this offseason?
So, from what I've heard, the Bulls are prepared to make him an offer, which means they're probably going to overpay him to stay. You're already closing your year. So you're thinking like me, and I could be wrong, but you could correct me. I believe DeMar is now 34 or 35, one of them. And to his credit, let me, I'm in no way am I disrespecting him. He's still a natural bucket getter. But you're a young team and you're starting a mini rebuild again. You just added Josh Giddey. What part of your future is 34, 35-year-old DeMar DeRozan? And who I'm a fan of, but he's not part of your future. My gut instinct is he's going to return to the Bulls. What I would hope is he would sign with a contender.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Him going back to the Bulls would make absolutely zero sense. Not to mention, you're getting younger with guys like Kobe White, Josh Giddey. This is going to be a team that you're going to get players that are going to want to run the floor. And DeMar still likes to play an isolation style heavy, basketball game. So I just don't think there's really a fit. DeMar could still run in transition, but DeMar also just prefers to slow the game down. And that's fine for some teams, but it's not going to be fine for the Chicago Bulls anymore. That's just not going to be their strength.
And it hasn't won games. Let's be honest. He's put up numbers. He's been terrific. But the trio of DeRozan, Vucevic, and LaVine, that's a failure. That hasn't worked. Which, by the way, where is Zach LaVine going? What is he going to be? Is he going to get moved? Because I don't think he's part of the Bulls' future either. The DeRozan one's a hard one because if they overpay him, my gut feeling is he's going to take the money. Right? I mean, he's going to be like, well, if you're going to pay me way more than I thought I was going to get, yeah, I'm going to stay. But if they don't, I would rather see him coming off the bench for a contender and be an instant offense because he can still do that and play meaningful playoff minutes. That's what I would hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I agree with that 100%. I hope that he goes somewhere else. Anywhere but Chicago. Don't stay in the rebuild, please.
Right.
Like, DeMar DeRozan can be a pretty fun player to watch, but I don't want to watch him wasting away the rest of his time in Chicago. I want to see that man have another chance at a ring. So
you said something really good too. The back end, the same way the back end of a Paul George contract will be horrible for you, the back end of a 35-year-old DeMar DeRozan is going to be like an anchor around your franchise's neck.
If I'm offering DeMar DeRozan a deal, it's going to be like a 2-year deal. I don't think I would go anything over to like 3 into year 38. sounds bad. A 4-year deal would just be absolutely brutal. But a 2-year deal with maybe like a 1-year player team option, I think that sounds just about right.
I
That
think
sounds
2
right to
years is
me.
perfect. And look, I think that's what a contender would be willing to offer him. I think most contenders would give him a 2-year deal, and the third year be a player or team option, and that would be fair for both sides. Um, Even though, guys, I get it. Steph is playing at a higher level. DeMar DeRozan is still playing at a higher level. Guys in the current NBA, because of the trainers and the nutrition and the travel, they're more well rested. The game isn't as much of a grind. They're playing longer at a higher level. And I love that. I do. But you're playing cap space Russian roulette when you resign a 35-year-old to a 4-year deal. You just are, because you don't know when they're going to hit the wall.
No, that's fair. I think DeMar DeRozan, I think what ends up happening with him is I think he goes back to the West Coast. He's a Cali guy. So I think he goes somewhere back out to Cali.
I think he's from I used to live in Culver City. I think he's from Compton, actually. I'm not sure, but I think he is.
My guess is I'm going to predict that he gets scooped up by the Los Angeles Clippers.
You know what? That's interesting, because if they were to lose Paul George, filling in DeMar DeRozan does a lot of things. He's not going to do what Paul George does defensively, but he can actually fill that whole offensively. So, yeah, I could see if he went somewhere else, him landing with the Clippers. One, because like you said, he's from Cali. Maybe he liked to finish his career at home or very close to home. So, yeah, I think that's a very real possibility. Should the Clippers lose Paul George, I could see DeMar DeRozan basically filling in that role.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because if you're going to do a sign and trade, a trade with Paul George, why not just add DeMar DeRozan and do like a multi-team sign and trade where you end up with DeMar? And I think he could be a valuable unit, a member to like the second unit. And he could even, he could still start and help close out games, but I think that's where his value is at this point in his career, just boosting up your bench unit when the rest of your stars go to the bench.
No, I agree. I think that his value would be better for the Clippers coming off the bench. I just think him and Kawhi playing together, that doesn't seem like a natural fit. Maybe in a closing lineup, but I think if you stagger your minutes, you're going to get more production, better production.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of Klay Thompson, everybody's predicting that Klay Thompson goes to the Orlando Magic. But I think I have a better idea for the Orlando Magic. I think Klay Thompson could still provide some much-needed spacing for the Orlando Magic, but tell me what you think about this, Mo. Instead of Klay, the Magic signed Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. If they're looking to upgrade that two-guard spot in Gary Harris, I think KCP, he's a better shooter. He's a better defender. He gives them championship experience, just like Klay would. And he's younger. He can move much better on defense. So you're not compromising your defense and signing KCP.
I think KCP is a better fit than Klay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This isn't Brett and I saying, well, KCP, we're not getting who's the greater player. It's Klay Thompson by a long shot. We're not doing that. I'm simply saying, when I look at the Magic's roster and what they do, like you pointed out, KCP is still a young enough player. He can play up tempo, and he's a terrific 3-and-D guy, and he's going to give you that veteran presence and experience on that young team. I like that as well. I think that's an excellent fit. My gut feeling with Klay Thompson is this, and I heard Myers say this earlier on air. I would rather the Warriors and Klay come together and meet in the middle. It seems right to me. And I know these things don't play out the way we want them to play out, but I'd rather see Klay and Steph finish out their careers together, right? That's how I want it. Now, it doesn't always end that way, but that's what I would like. And I know what Klay is saying, well, you guys are trying to give Paul George $200-something million, but you're trying to tell me to take like a third of that or something like that. I understand that. What I would say to Klay is, though, at this stage in your career, there's no doubt we believe in you and know you can still help us. Is Paul George better than Klay Thompson right now? Yeah, I would argue he was always better than him. He just hasn't been more successful than him. I thought in a perfect world what Golden State really wanted to do, Brett, I don't think they wanted to move Klay. I think they wanted to acquire Paul George and keep Klay. I think that's what they wanted to do. And I don't think Klay wants to be a part of that because he's looking at the money that George would get and what they're asking him to take. And I just think Klay, look, it's guys are emotional, right? They have egos. If you tell me to take a pay cut, that makes me feel like everything I've done for you guys, all I've been through, and I'm the guy that you asked to take a pay cut, I'm not doing that. If I can go somewhere else and they're going to pay me close to what I think I'm valued at, I think that's probably where Klay goes.
That's fair. I did get carried away a little bit. Klay is still a better shooter than KCP. I will retract that one.
No, I didn't say he was a better shooter. I said he's a better fit. I didn't say, oh, you said that. I didn't say that.
I think in my excitement, I said that because to me, the fit just makes more sense. But yeah, Klay's still the better shooter. I think KCP, what he does offer is maybe not better shooting, but he can still get to the rim much better than Klay. And he's still got some hops. But overall, I was thinking about it. I was like, everyone's saying Klay Thompson, but what if they just brought over KCP instead? I think that's just the better fit in the year 2024.
And you pointed out something else that a lot of people we forget. We kind of led with the show. The West was hard last year. It was loaded. There were teams in the West that won 47, 48 games, Brett, and that was just good enough to get you to the play-in with 48 wins. Now you bring in a healthy Memphis Grizzlies team with Morant, with Bane, with Jaren Jackson, with Josh Giddey, with Marcus Smart. That's a 50-win team. Like I said, somebody's not making the playoffs. So somebody that made the playoffs this year is not making the playoffs next year. Because barring injury, Memphis is definitely going to make the playoffs. They're going to be a problem. I think John Morant is going to be on a revenge tour.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost funny because it feels like Anthony Edwards is in that early like John Morant hype stage when Ja first started breaking out and he could do no wrong. Right. I feel like that's where we are with Anthony Edwards, and I think Ja's going to come back. He's going to prove a lot of people wrong. Like, hey, you forgot about me. Remember, here's what I can do. And Memphis is going to be a lot of fun to watch next year. I think.
What do you think about what San Antonio did in the draft?
I actually. So I like the Castle pick. He's a heck of a defender. And I think they needed that over, on the perimeter. Wemby can't be the real only defender on that team. But I didn't necessarily like trading away Dillingham for a 2031 distant first. I can see the...
Explain that to me. I don't get that move. That doesn't... Like, how does that move help your franchise in the media? But more importantly, Wemby's your franchise player. Everything is about Wemby. That 31 pick, Wemby's going to be 5 All-Star games into his career before that even comes in. Like, how does that help him?
It's one thing I don't know. And because here's the thing, right? Anthony Edwards isn't even going to be 30. So unless you get to that unprotected pick, and Anthony Edwards has either by this point requested a trade or suffers a debilitating injury, it's not like the Timberwolves are going anywhere. You can just retool around Anthony Edwards. That's still going to be, I think, at worst with Ant, that's a play-in team. Right. So you're looking at like a middle-of-the-pack pick. And where I think Dillingham would help them a lot is he's instant offense. Once again, people are like, well, he's only 167 pounds. And I'll point it out once again. So was DeJounte Murray when he came into the league. So was De'Aaron Fox. When you get to the NBA, they have ways of putting muscle and weight and getting you ready for the league. So I like the Castle pick, but I do think trading Dillingham was a mistake.
Yeah. Look, hey, KD could barely like bench press 75 pounds. It was something crazy when he was at the combine. And he's still incredibly skinny now, but he was much skinnier when he first came into the league. Like, I don't care if you're slender. That doesn't mean anything to me. If you can play, your game's going to shine whether you're slender or not. You'll get bigger over time. Like that, if that's the excuse or that's what people are saying, I'm looking at the player. I think Dillingham is a player, and I think he's somebody that would have fit well with Wemby.
No, I think so too. He's a phenomenal shot creator, and I absolutely love that for him. And I think he's really going to be a nice boost for the Timberwolves. Like, he's going to be a great boost for their bench.
Yeah, no question. I think the Timberwolves had a great, like, and I didn't see this because you think of a team that just missed making the Western Conference Finals, and they come out and they have the kind of draft that they have, and they literally filled everything that we said they needed to do in terms of need, get shot creation, get another scorer. I love that they did that because they recognize their weaknesses. They're too reliant offensively on Anthony Edwards. He's their only natural shot creator. I think it was wise, and it's going to make a big difference for him that all the focus can't be just on him.
Absolutely. And with this too, I'm looking at the rest of these free agents, and it's like, all right, well, we either talked about it or, I mean, I don't think anybody's really banging down the door to nowhere.
What about your favorite player, Tobias Harris? I knew it.
But let's jump to your segment, Mo, because I do have somebody to call out because it's time to do better with Mo Betta. So I'll ask you first, Mo. Do you have anything or anybody in mind?
I would just say with Clutch Sports, just do better. I think that whole thing about I think Bob Myers was on the NBA show talking about, well, I spoke with Clutch and they've gone ahead and told all the teams that have picks from 38 to 55, don't do it. Don't draft Bronny. And I was thinking, like, I think those were wasted phone calls. I mean, how many of those GMs, when they answer the phone and Rich Paul was like, "This is Rich Paul," I'm just like, Rich, you're good. You're good, man. We weren't going to draft him. You don't have to call us. We're good. We're like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's only a couple of teams, in particular, one in purple and gold, that really wanted him. Let's be real. Like, in another year, if his name was Johnson, he probably would have been a guy that wouldn't have got drafted. He would have been invited to camp, right? I mean, that's what would have happened. And that's not saying that he's not a legitimate player or somebody that could eventually develop into a rotation player. But a lot of guys, if you think about a lot of guys' careers and where they had to go to get to where they are now, Brett, if you ever seen Pat Beverly's journey to the NBA and all the weird places that he had to play before he found a home in the NBA, PJ Tucker, there's so many other guys. I'm just saying, so in no way am I telling you Bronny can't make it in the NBA. I just thought it was funny that Clutch went through all that trouble. Like, well, we let it be known that if you try to pick him, don't even bother. Like, it's not like they have any control. If we want to pick him, I might have, if Rich Paul called me, I might pick him just for spite. I might just pick him. I might have picked him anyway. Like, you know what, Rich, I wasn't going to pick him, but you know what? Guess what? He's coming to Milwaukee. He's probably not going to play, Rich, but we're picking him now just because you said don't do it. Like, I think sometimes they overplay their hand. And I do think a lot of GMs, a lot of franchises, they knew what you and I knew and other fans knew. It's no secret that the Lakers planned on picking Bronny. It's no secret that I'm sure his pops would have loved to have him come there. I think some of them probably did a solid. Even if you were a team who had some interest in him, I think some of them were like, you know what? We're going to do them a solid and back off. If they want him, we'll let it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't think anybody was fighting to draft Bronny. I think sometimes Rich Paul can overplay his hand unnecessarily.
I remember joking with Kyle in the one chat. I was like, Kyle, you guys have the pick right before the Lakers. You don't need any more pieces. Y'all have a chance to do the funniest thing right now. Because imagine him not only not going to the Lakers, but he goes to the Celtics.
You know what? Tim Legler said something really funny today. He was like, if I'm the Celtics, I'm drafting Bronny, and then I'm calling the Lakers up and going, we have your son. You know what I mean? Like, and And the demands is we'll take Austin Reeves. You know what I mean, for Bronny. How bad do you want Bronny? It's all in fun, but it's funny because Brad Stevens would never do anything like that. But back in the day, Red Auerbach would have done something like that.
No, absolutely. And it's perfect that we went back to the draft because I feel like that's where we need to do better. And I'm talking about ESPN and their draft coverage because I'm watching them. And like I said, I never claimed to be I'm still learning about, different prospects and trying to keep up with college. So I'm still working my way through that, but you can't claim to be a draft expert and then not know anybody in the top 10. I'm listening to Stephen A sit there and just the entire time just try to talk about what his Knicks are going to do. Like, I don't care, Stephen A. We're at pick 8. They're still 16 picks away. Why do I care what the Knicks are going to do? And overall, it's disappointing because you see other, like the NFL draft, for example, you got like Mel Kiper, who are in deep into the 7th round, and he still knows like every prospect. Like, they get real great analysts and guys who just know all these different prospects and really know what they're talking about. And it just feels like ESPN almost dropped the ball, and like we're not even 5 picks in and we're getting, the analysts like confused, like, oh, who's that? Like, shouldn't you know? Like, you won 25 mil from ESPN. Shouldn't you know who Nicola Topic is? Who, Reed Shepard is? Like, you should know who these guys are.
I was watching the draft, Brett. Your do better is much better than mine. I was watching the draft, and you can tell because Malika, and it's not her job to know every single prospect, right? Her job is to keep the trains on the track and run the show. But she's looking at him, and she's kind of giving him that look, like, dude, you're still talking about the Knicks, and we're like 6 or 7, like, and the reason why, let's keep it 100. He didn't know anything about any of those players. He didn't know anything. And I don't know who his intern is because I'm sure he's got an intern or a flunky. That guy got fired today. He got fired, or yesterday he got fired for sure, because he was unprepared. Like, no notes, no nothing. Like, Jay Billis is always on top of it 9 times out of 10. The problem was he was the only one that knew anything.
Yeah, I'm hoping next year they correct that. I'm not saying you need to get like 7 draft experts up there, but give me like 1 or 2, or at least a couple of them that really know in detail, like picks 1 through 58 right down the middle, because we can do that for the MLB draft. We can do that for the NFL draft. Why can't we do that for the NBA draft? Just give me some guys that know everybody, or at least have a general idea who everybody is.
Brett, you know who does? What's old boy's name? He knows everybody. Did ESPN fire him? Let me get his name out. Fran Fraschilla. Remember, right?
Oh,
Fran Fraschilla knows everybody. I don't care if you played in Poland. I don't care what. Maybe he doesn't have a contract with ESPN because he should have been there tonight. He would have been able to tell you everything in great detail about all of those players that got drafted.
Yeah, and like I said, I love that Bronny got his moment. My other do better with ESPN is the fact that we were still on Bronny, just laser locked on him, and we went through like 2 or 3 picks. Like, Bronny deserved his moment. He absolutely did, and I hope the best things for him in the NBA.
Me too.
But the guys behind them deserved their moment too, to be on stage, on TV, and everything. And they were robbed of that. They didn't get the same respect as pick 54, 53 got, because as soon as Bronny hit the stage, they went through multiple picks just talking about Bronny. So I feel like that they didn't get the respect that they deserved, and it disappointed me, really.
They talked about Bronny in the 2nd round the way we talked about Wemby when he got drafted. Like, Bronny got the kind of coverage you get when you're like, this guy's going to be a franchise player. He's going to be that kind of guy. And I'm not killing Bronny. He can't control who his pops is. He can't control who his last name is. But you're right. It's nothing that Bronny did that was wrong. that was all ESPN jockeying Bronny. And like you said, instead of focusing on picks 30, 31, 35, 38, I felt like they rushed through them. They would congratulate the young man on being there to tell us about your journey real quick. And then they want to usher him off because they wanted to get back to talking about, well, we all know who's coming up in 15 picks or so, or whatever. I mean, the story of the second round wasn't those players. It was Bronny James. And I'm not blaming him. This is all about ESPN. At some point, 2-3 years from now, we're going to look up and go, man, 5 of those guys drafted ahead of Bronny, they've had hell of a career. And maybe Bronny will have a hell of a career too. But a couple of those guys that got drafted in the second round, I thought they were going to be first round picks. I know they're going to be ball players.
Yeah, it's funny because when it came to the Bucks, I was like, okay, our second round talent we should have picked in the first. And our first round pick, I thought he was second round talent.
Right.
Overall, it felt like we got fine picks and we just flopped where they should have been picked.
Yeah, I thought you guys did good on draft night. I mean, I know you didn't like the player comp because I'm with you. I didn't see Jamal Crawford, but and by the way, that's a hard player comp because if you know his skill set and what he does really well, there's not a lot of guys that can do what Jamal Crawford can do. I like what you said. It's more like Simon. And by the way, Simon's not a slouch. He's just not Jamal Crawford.
Yeah. For anybody that doesn't know, Bleacher Report was giving updates on the draft, and they were giving their own player comps. And when we drafted AJ, their player comp was Jamal Crawford. If you've watched Jamal Crawford play, you know his style of game is one of one. It is so hard to replicate because he was such a good ball handler. He could do things that not many people could do. So making a comp to him is tough. But to say that AJ was like him, like, nah, I see more Anfernee Simons in him than anything. I was fine with the Channing Frye comp for our second rounder. That was fine to me, but yeah, Jamal Crawford completely blew me away because I was like, that isn't the same player at all that I'm looking at right here playing in the Australian League.
I'll take Channing Frye though as a rotation player in a heartbeat.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll take that in a heartbeat.
Say he can learn a year or two from Brook before he eventually retires, and I will absolutely take it.
Now, do you think, because I know we just come out the draft, the next step is free agency, do you think they still keep the core together going into the season? And when I say the core, obviously I'm going Giannis, Dame, Brook, Middleton, and then I'll throw in Bobby Portis. Do you think there will be any shakeup in the core?
So Horst, after the draft, when he was talking about our draft, he said, yeah, we got to find guys that'll really support our core. And he did mention Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis. So from the way Horst made it seem, nobody's moving anywhere. We're going to run it back. However, I think that's a mistake. I think you want a Bucks team. We're talking about playing more versatile. We're playing more athletic. You want to play more athletic. We need more athletic players. I love Bobby Portis. I love Brook Lopez. If we keep them, I'm not going to complain about it because I'm down to watch them again. But at the same time, I think there has to be something of a change. Like, I think we need to get younger and more athletic. And I'm not saying trade those guys for anybody, but if there's a chance that we can find rotational pieces for them that are younger, more versatile, and athletic, I would go ahead and pull the trigger on it. Like I said, I love both of those guys. And at the end of the day, if they retire Bucks, I would be super happy about it.
And just for the record, this isn't me killing Portis or Lopez. I'm fans of both. I think Bobby Portis is one of the best 6 men in basketball. Easily, it's not even close. I guess my mindset was more like, are they going to go out and get some young players? Because right now it seems like the Bucks can only play one style, and I feel like if you're going to come out of your conference, you got to be able to play more than one style.
Yeah, with Brook, you have to play drop. you can get more versatile with Giannis and Bobby, but Bobby's a bit slow-footed too, so it's kind of hard to even be more versatile with Bobby on the court. That's why I'm telling you right now, the name to look out for the Bucks, Andre Jackson Jr. If Doc lets him, he's going to be a breakout star for Milwaukee. He's young. He showed promise. He's a physical defender. He takes pride in his defense. You can tell he's got great feel as a passer. He's a great connective piece. His shooting is a question mark, but even that started to show improvement towards the end. So I think Andre Jackson could help a ton. And AJ Green showed flashes of being a good shooter, maybe, but I think the answer is if the right move is there, trade Brooke, trade Bobby, get younger, get more versatile.
I feel you.
But at the end of the day, just watch out for Andre Jackson. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people this year.
I feel like both conferences, it's weird, right? Because both conferences are basically all competing for the same free agent pool, right? You're all, you know what I mean? Like I know we make jokes about Tobias Harris, but outside of the jokes, do I think Tobias Harris can be an effective rotation player or have a different role on a winning team? With no question, absolutely. This was never about whether or not he can play. I think the running joke was the situation because how Philly had to overpay him, and of course he was getting. You could argue getting number 2 money, but he was really like the number 3 or number 4. But if you look at his career, I think for like 6 or 7 or 8 years, you can book him at Brett for like 18 points a game. 18 points, like 7 or 8 rebounds. So, and he's a versatile offensive player. He can spot up, he can catch and shoot, he can post a little bit. I think I could be wrong, but I think Tobias is just he's either 30 or 31, so he's still relatively young. I think he has value on a title contender. The only problem, and you know this, very few title contenders can give him market value. He would have to get more years, but take take less topside money. So if somebody said, well, Tobias, his agent was like, me and Tobias were thinking, 3 years, $65 million. You would be like, well, we were thinking like 4 years, $45 million. You know what I mean? Like something like that. I'm just saying, it's not like he hasn't made a ton of money. Like the guy just came off a $180 million contract. I mean, he's not broke.
Yeah.
I guess your thoughts. Do you think he has value?
I think he still does. I think the big thing with Tobias, and maybe I think Philly felt compelled to play him because they were paying him so much.
Right.
You have to give him a contract that's fair, and you don't feel compelled to keep him in the game because Tobias Harris, at the end of the day, the moment can get too big for him. We've seen that before. Tobias Harris still has some bad habits. I've never seen a guy decide to pump fake a wide open shot and then just run to take a contested 10-footer instead. But he does have I still think he has value as long as the contract's fair. And the big part is you can't be afraid to take him out of the game if the moment starts getting too big for him. So
right.
In the right role, in the right situation, with the right coach, yeah, Tobias can still have some good value, I think.
I agree. I think in free agency, there's really only a couple of really, really big names. But I think there's a lot of guys that I would call role players that can help teams win if you're a title contender. There's some very good role players that are going to be available in this free agent class.
I'll say look out for Bruce Brown as well.
That's right. Bruce Brown is still with the Raptors, but he has a player opt-out, doesn't he? My guess is he takes it.
Yeah, I think he takes it or he ends up getting traded. I don't think he's with Toronto next year.
Right. Yeah, isn't Toronto like in a rebuild too?
Yeah, they say they traded OG, they traded Pascal. They're in an awkward spot.
They're not. Van Vliet's gone. Like really, they've got Scotty Barnes and oh boy, I'm trying to remember his name from the Knicks. They just got him from the Knicks.
Oh, Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett.
Barrett, yeah, they're trying to build, I believe, around Barrett and Scotty Barnes. I know that Scotty Barnes is a talent. I know that he's an all-star, and he'll probably be a perennial all-star. What I don't know, Brett, is I don't know if Scotty Barnes is a building block player, if that makes any sense.
No, but I don't know either. I think that's tough. I think he's shown enough improvement that it's worth the gamble for Toronto, though.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I say Toronto's not really in a position to do much of anything. They're kind of in limbo, so I think he's shown enough improvement that he can be, but he still needs to take a couple more leaps before they get there. I think their next move is they got to find a different center. I cannot tell you how I'm not a big fan of Jakob Poeltl being at your starting center and like somebody you consider a core piece. I think that's not a great situation to be in. Let me put it this way. People say that Rudy Gobert is unplayable when the game gets close and in clutch time. Jakob Poeltl is legitimately unplayable. Like, I think when it's Rudy, it can get overblown at times. Jakob Poeltl, he can't, like, Rudy can kind of move. He's mobile for his size. Jakob just isn't really mobile at all. He's not a great shooter. He's a great passer. I'll give him all the credit in the world there. But he also can't hit his free throws. I think he can be a rotational piece, a good rotational piece. But half the time when I hear them talk about him, they talk about him like he's a really core piece, part of their future. And I'm not sold on it. I'm not sold on Jakob, and I think they need to upgrade at center.
I think the only thing I like on their roster, I like Barnes. I think that Emmanuel Quickley is very good as a six man. I think RJ Barrett. I think RJ Barrett there, he's a number 2. My gut instinct is that RJ Barrett, his perfect role is a 3. I think he's a third option on a title contending team, on a 50+ win team. RJ Barrett is your third option.
No, absolutely. Oh, that's all the topics I had for today, Mo. Do you got anything else?
No, we chopped it up. We talked about the draft. We talked about free agency. We disrespected Tobias Harris. No, we did. We did not. I'm kidding. We actually talked about the value he actually has going into free agency. Once again, this time jets by when it's me and you. I literally just looked up, and I thought we were about 45 minutes in. We're over an hour and a half in. I had no clue.
Yeah, the time always flies, honestly, like just chopping it up, talking ball. I'll do that. I'll look up and be like, oh, we are 45 minutes in already. I don't know how that happened, but.
No, I love it. And I appreciate everybody. I really do. Brett and I do. When you guys tune in, when you listen to us, just do us a solid. Go to the N1 Discord, go to the N1 Facebook page, give us a like, a share, a follow, get to your friends and go, look, those two guys, Brett and Mo, when they're chopping it up, if you love NBA, they're your guys. Get them to come follow. Get your friends to be our friends. We'll all be friends. And make sure you check out all the great content that we have at the Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you guys.
Yeah, and, make sure to, if you're a morning person and you need your morning news, tune in tomorrow, 8 a.m. Central, the morning show with the guy to my right there, Mo, Betta, and Chris. They run a phenomenal show, so if you're a morning person, definitely check it out.
Coffee and sports in the morning. Can't wait to see you guys.
All right, and in the meantime, everybody, thank you for tuning in. We are working on some great things that I cannot wait to tell you about. Hopefully, I'll be done with merch and a website too. I'm working on a lot of different things for N1, and hopefully by next week, I'll be able to tell you all about it. But until then, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you for tuning in to the And One podcast. If you like our content, you can find more on the Wire to Wire Podcast Network on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. Want more And One? Find it on Wire to Wire. Like and share our Facebook page and join the And One Discord. Grab the link to join from our Facebook. Thank you for tuning in and have a wonderful day.